Okay. Um, Good morning. Good morning to every one of you. It's such a joy to come your way this morning with this edition of Strength to Lead. On this brief and a short program, what I attempt to do every week is to share with you some nuggets and principles that I believe would empower you in your leadership. As I have always said, when we talk about leadership, there are more leaders than they can think of themselves as leaders. If you're a parent, you're a leader. You don't necessarily be a leader because you're into politics, or whether you have a leadership role at work or at church or at school or wherever that you find yourself. But you are a leader simply because you have a sphere of influence. There are people who you influence. There are people whose lives you touch, and there are people who follow you. And in that sense, you are purely a leader. This morning, briefly, I want to share with you something which will be the last part of what I have been sharing for the last 3 weeks. Um, it's very, very important because it was the words of Jesus Christ Himself from the book of John, chapter 15, from verse 5 to 7. But I'll just focus on the verse 5. He says that I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. For without me, you can do nothing. Now, I want you to understand something, that what Jesus was trying to say here was that he was the source of life. Because if you look at the illustration that he used in terms of having a tree with its branches, the branch of a tree is dependent on the stem of the tree, or the trunk of the tree itself, because the branch of the tree receives its nutrition being passed on to it from the root through the trunk of the tree to it. So the branch of a tree is really dependent on the tree itself. And that was what Jesus Christ was trying to teach. The fact that we produce results in our lives through relationships in the context of our relationship with Him and His relationship with God, His Father. And so we need to come to the place to a certain kind of comprehension that anything that is not connected to its source will eventually die, because that is what Jesus is saying here, that for without me you can do nothing. Anything that is not connected to its source will eventually die. And there are three sources that I'm going to talk to you about. I have spoken about two of them already in the last 2 weeks that I believe that you need to be connected to in order for you to be grounded and keep yourself strong. Because when it comes to leadership, as we may all understand, sometimes we express leadership in different ways and different forms. And when it comes to leadership, you have people who look up to you and follow you. You have people who depend on you, so to speak. And so you cannot let them down. You need to, you as an individual, need to be connected to the source that you are connected to continue to be strong, to supply others who come to you with what they need. It may be those who follow you from afar, and follow up those whom you influence through social media. You need to continue to be strong in a way that will cause people and help people to follow after you and pursue what you've got to offer them through you. And so you need to be connected to Christ. That is the first thing we spoke about. You need to be connected to your true self, and you also need to be connected to an empowering society, whether it's of your cultural heritage, your social group, your spiritual stock, or even your professional association. It is very important that you remain connected to these sources, because you see, when it comes to your cultural heritage, a cultural heritage is where you come from, and cultural heritage, is as it is, actually influences to a great deal our lives and the way we live our lives. We may make changes along the way. We may pick and choose some of the things that we believe are wonderful, they are good, and builds us up and keeps us going to fulfill that assignment or that vision or that ambition or that dream that we have, and discard those things which we don't believe are helping us to get to where we ought to get to. But then ultimately, where you come from influences. So for instance, If you've lived in poverty for a very long time and you have not been taught to be generous, you may tend, even when you are well to do, to continue not to be generous and live with a scarcity mentality. It is all because of your cultural heritage. It is because of where you are coming from. It is because of your social group that you come from and hang about or have grown out of. And so we have to understand that these shape our identity. And it's very important that sometimes, because you see, one of the things that we need to get to is the fact that our lives are shaped from where we come from and will always be shaped from where we come from, not so much of where we are going. So it's just like a rocket that takes off from the ground, from a space base somewhere. As it flies up, it leaves behind certain aspects of its outward encasement or build up in order to make it possible for it to get to where it is going. But definitely in its journey, or it begins its journey with baggages and also privileges and benefits of where it is coming from. So we need to appreciate the fact that you as a leader cannot operate and live as an island. You need to get connected to a community of your cultural heritage, where you come from, because you need that as a base, whether it's a refined heritage or whether it's a refined or unrefined heritage. You need to be able to build yourself on that platform and move yourself through to where you want to get to. Your social group is also a very important area that you need to. Your spiritual stock. What spiritual stock do you come from? You need to be able to stay well connected to the spiritual, and also your professional association, which is something that I want to focus on very much. And when we talk about professional association, we are talking about your expertise, your training, and what you have been able to build yourself that earns you a living, if you like. So all that I'm saying is that it is in these communities that we develop our own identity and distinctiveness as leaders, because sometimes your distinctiveness only show more where there are more similarities. So in your associations, in your social groupings, in your cultural groupings, in your spiritual groupings, your identity as to who you are, based on your abilities, based on your strengths, your weaknesses, based on your understanding, your outlook on life, your worldview, your perceptions, comes out the more when you are so much with those that look more like you. And when I say those that look more like you, I'm talking about professionally, I'm talking about culturally, I'm talking about socially, I'm talking about spiritually. And so you are able to sometimes define yourself better in that way. So it's important that we know that you need to connect to your source. You need to connect to these groupings, that because when Jesus was talking about being connected to him who is the vine, and he connected to the vine dresser, which is Jesus, his father, he was teaching. He was teaching, more importantly, that he is the source. He is our source, and a branch cannot do well without being connected to the trunk of the tree. And the trunk of the tree is what has got the roots that pulls out or draws out the nutrients upon which the branch depends on. And likewise, as I have said, in as much as our connection to Jesus Christ is important, which is the ultimate, we also need to connect ourselves to our cultural heritage, our social groupings, our spiritual stuff, and our professional association. You need to surround yourself with people who understand your journey in life. And that is the whole mindset, that you need to understand yourself. You need to surround yourself with people who understand your journey in life and have the expertise and the willingness to add to you to grow your expertise as well. So if you're a professional, you need to join a professional association. And it's not just a professional association that will speak for you when you are in trouble at the workplace only, but an association that is committed to your development as a leader, is committed to developing your own expertise and helping you to find your niche even within that circle of professionals. You need to learn you need to learn what constitutes best practice, and standards for effectiveness. And you can get all these things when you belong to an empowering association, and it is through that you also have you understand the trajectory of trends and developments within the industry or within the area where you express your leadership. All that I'm saying this morning to you shortly is that you need to develop a circle of value and not just a circle of numbers. There are times that you need to decrease your circle in order to increase its value so that they can input into your life and get yourself to the place where you ought to be. Many and much does not necessarily mean quality and value. You need to be able to come to that place of serious decision making, and know that your cultural heritage, your social grouping, your spiritual stock, and your professional association will play a very important role as to how far you can go with your dreams, how far you can go in being effective at what you do, how far you can go in becoming the man and the woman that you ought to be. There are a few benefits that I will just mention in a short while, and then I'll let you go. You need to get grounded because of accountability. When you belong to these social groupings, you belong to these cultural heritage groupings, when you belong to these professional associations and your spiritual stock or spiritual group, it's a matter of accountability. You have people who will check up on you. You have people who you are accountable to. There are certain things that you wouldn't want to do because of the sake of accountability. Also, these networking circles could also motivate you to reach higher. When you see what others are doing, when you experience what others have done, and you see the trajectory on which they are moving, you get encouraged and empowered to also push yourself, not to compete with them, not to be like them, but to empower yourself and push yourself up to maximize your own potential and reach for your own goals and visions in life. You also have to increase it. It also increases your creative intellect, because when you have realized that others have done something that could be difficult for you, as you might have probably thought about, and realize that they've done it, it gives you the impetus, it gives you the grounds for you to research more and build on what they have done, not only as a source of motivation and not only as a source of strength to do your own thing, but also to build on what they have been able to do to reach out for more, or to do more, impact more, influence more, and provide more for those that depend on you as a leader. And then also what it helps in is also growth in self-confidence. When you belong to these groups, you grow in self-confidence, because then you know who you are, just like we spoke about last week. Anyone who calls himself a leader and wants to impact and influence the people that follow him or society in general must be someone that really understands who he or she is. You need to be able to know what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, what your interests are. You need to know what it is that challenges your life, or undermines, or has the potential to undermine what you want to be able to achieve in life. And so you grow in self-confidence when you are well connected in these areas that I have just spoken about. And it also makes you noticeable within your own community when your people understand. When I say your people, I'm just talking about your professional association or your cultural heritage, your social group, or your spiritual stock. When they know exactly what you stand for, when they are looking for someone to provide for them exactly what they believe you stand for, you are the one that they will come to, because you have been able to develop your identity within that group for you to be so distinct in their eyes that they know exactly what it is that your mission is. They know exactly what it is that you can supply. They know exactly what it is that you can bring on board to be of benefit to them and to others around you. I want to encourage you as a leader, and as I've already said, whether you are a parent, you are a teacher, you are a nurse, you are a doctor, you are a lecturer, you are a pastor, you are the elders of amongst your siblings, whatever that you may be playing a leadership role and you may not know. If only you have people who look up to you, people who follow your example, if only someone listens to your advice, if you impact and influence someone's life in any shape or form, people follow you, you are a leader. And so we need to be able to get well connected to Jesus Christ, get well connected to yourself, and get connected to an empowering community And that may be your spiritual, your cultural heritage, your spiritual stock you come from, your professional association, and your social grouping. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to this very short broadcast. God bless you and have a wonderful week. And hopefully, I'll come again your way next week. God bless you.